Hello, I'm Jeremy Rivera, your Unscripted podcast host. I'm here with Meaghan Wall, who's going to introduce herself, her company, and tell us why we should trust her in her industry.
Hi, everyone. I'm Meaghan. I am the founder of the Hot Girl CFO. We are a boutique accounting agency. We offer fractional CFO, bookkeeping, and now taxes. Freshly launched the tax arm of my company at the beginning of last month. It's been amazing. And you should definitely trust me because I've been in finance for over 15 years at this point. I know my way around the industry as far as like bookkeeping and creator economics, online service provider bookkeeping is our specialty. So marketing agencies, creator um, representation agencies, like talent kind of representation agencies they have, influencers, all of that jazz. Those are our jam.
Curious about the concept of fractional and how is that different from a freelancer, or how is that concept? Is that just allowing you to come into the corporate constellation with a particular title and hold the reins that way versus being seen as just a hired agency to do finances?
Yeah, so in my mind, I see fractional more as like it just means that I'm the CFO for multiple companies and not just like the CFO for Apple or like the CFO for, you know, Google or whatever. So I'm able to serve multiple companies at once as their CFO, and the agency aspect is definitely more on the more on the side of like when you come to work with the Hot Girl CFO, you get a bookkeeper, you get a CFO, and you get a tax person, and that's like your Hot Girl finance team. So
Okay, so you have a whole team stack of, it's not just you, you're also bringing multiple roles into the position at the same time.
exactly, yeah, and that's really more of a new development in our company. I started out as solo project and was doing all the CFO and the bookkeeping, and I still do a lot of it. I still am a bookkeeper, and I review the books before they go out to the clients, and I am the main fractional CFO right now, but I have a bookkeeper underneath me, and I have a tax teammate who does all the taxes. She's excellent, and yeah, it's been really fun to kind of progress into more of an agency structure instead of just a me. We're now a we.
What's the biggest friction that companies are experiencing where you come in and you can add some oil to that situation and make it smooth where it's been rough before?
Yeah, a lot of my clients come to me because they don't have insight into their offer suite profitability. So usually bookkeepers are grouping transactions into, one top line revenue account, and then you have all of your expenses. And there's really no way to tell, okay, what am I making from this offer? What am I making from that offer? And with the CFO level support and insight, we're able to first of all separate that on the P&L and L and in the books so that you're getting that more in-depth look into your numbers, as well as I create dashboards for my clients that track specific profitability of each offer. So that's a big one, especially for my larger coaches where they have like a ton of different offers. They may have digital products, they may have, group offers and a one-on-one and all of those things. We track each individual offer.
Here's a soapbox for you to stand on and speak to all of the businesses that have finances, which they all do, but focused on that niche. What is your hot take?
Mm, I have a couple, but my like biggest pet peeve, and I get it, but commingling funds with business and personal when you're at the high six figure into the seven figure mark of revenue, it's just a no-no. Like you just cannot have clean books. You cannot have a clean insight when you're mixing your personal and your business. And I will die on that hill. I have a couple clients who refuse to clean up, and I'm like, "Look, you know better. I've told you better."
And is that because you're seeing you're not able to account for which expenses are which, and if there isn't really a good reason for it to continue other than just sloppiness, like it would take a quarter of a day to set up separate accounts, that are truly just personal, right?
Right. Well, it's not necessarily that I can't account for the correct expenses either way. It's more like the structure of your business, the legal structure of your business absolutely breaks down if you are commingling your funds. So if you have an LLC, if you have an S corp, if you have a C corp, any of these things, you are indefensible if you are commingling your funds. If somebody comes after you, it's it doesn't make sense to even have those legal structures or those legal protections if you're going to mingle, if you're going to put personal in your business.
That definitely makes sense. When you're brought on to the team, what's the low-hanging fruit? The things that day one or week one or month one that you're sorting out, aside from, hey, get your hand out of the cookie jar, put it into a separate cookie jar. And anything business is in business. You want to spend stuff, great. Just, you know, arrange your way of transferring it out, whether that's payroll or whatever. So aside from that, what's that low-hanging fruit as a new CFO coming in? What are your aims to clean up shop?
We definitely clean up the bookkeeping. As an agency, you come to us for pretty much the whole team. We don't, this is a part of the new structure that we're implementing is like, instead of doing, we just offer bookkeeping or we just do taxes or whatever it is. We're now offering the all or nothing kind of service where you come to us, you get the whole thing. I'm not gonna come in as your CFO. If you have a bookkeeper, you'll get my bookkeeper. So that's kind of the first thing we do is dive into the books, make sure that they're super clean and, like I said, defensible if anything were to ever happen, like an audit. Um, and then from there, we're setting up bank accounts. We're making sure that things are like in the ecosystem of the bank accounts and in the ecosystem of the microeconomy. I like to think of it as a little microeconomy of a business, and things are moving fluidly.
Curious about geography. Like I work with a, permacast concrete wall company in Florida. They provide services nationwide. When it comes to bookkeeping, like as a freelancer myself, I'm just taking stuff in. How much does finances change based off of where your business is physically located versus where you're doing transactions?
That's a really good question because it depending on like your nexus and depending on where you have employees or like where are you're physically located, you could owe sales taxes in different states. So as far as like bookkeeping goes, we offer services nationwide, and my tax teammate, we also do taxes nationwide as well. But as far as like the business being in one state versus another and like having physical presence, there's a lot that goes into like sales taxes, and most services are not taxed through sales tax, but in some states they are, and digital products are taxed differently in different states. So that's a huge thing to know.
Yeah. Are there any like honeypots or any states that are particularly troublesome or particularly trouble-free? Like I'm in Tennessee and I know we don't have a state income tax, which is definitely different from when I was in California.
Yeah.
So what's the top three most difficult states for business finance?
Yeah, so difficult. California is definitely one of the most difficult for sure. They have their when you record and like register and remit your sales tax, you have to input every single county that you sold, like how much you sold in every single county of California, which is a huge task. But for sales taxes specifically, California is a bear. Um, and then I will say, like, Texas has no uh state income tax either, and neither does Delaware, I believe. That's where lots of people, that's like a haven for a lot of people who want to create corporations. Go to Delaware.
Sense. There isn't much other call to go to Delaware. Look at me. I'm in Delaware. Talk to me a little bit about your personal journey. Like, where have you come from? Did you always want to get into finance? Or were you a young child playing with an abacus in front of math class? Or how did you fall into this particular career?
I did always enjoy math, but you would be surprised how little math there is in accounting, honestly, other than like addition and subtraction. I wanted to be Indiana Jones when I was a kid, and like I wanted to be also wanted to be a CSI. I was obsessed with CSI and actually went into college going toward a biology degree so that I could go into genetics and be a CSI because that's what I wanted to do. But then
I think there is
failed.
a bit of forensics in mapping
True.
profitability and
Yeah,
looking at the
yeah.
marketing side. How does that work out? What is your role in these conversations talking about, I think it is definitely, a difference between, hey, give me your papers, we'll line up these numbers, but you talked about profitability per line. What do some of those conversations work out to? What does that relationship look like with C-suite, or is it more of relationship with individuals who have small businesses that you're working with, and talking about those concepts of profitability, giving advice or direction, or just giving useful information of, hey, this thing you're doing over here, that's making all your money versus this thing you're spending all your time on is not making
Right.
money.
Right. Well, I think there is. So I work with small businesses. I work with the 500K to like multi-million dollar businesses. And I know that sounds like a lot of money to a lot of people, but in the grand scheme, that's a very small company. So I work with a lot of solo CEOs with maybe small teams, and the operating margin is so small, and they're running things so leanly that the conversation about profitability per offer has to be had, especially if they are putting in their own hours into the offer itself and they're not having team take care of those offers. Like, the founder hours are worth more than they used to be when they were solo. So a lot of the conversations around profitability happen where I'm giving them the information first, and then I'm asking them, "Okay, how much do you want me to tell you what to do right now?" Because some of my clients are like, "Okay, I have the information. I'm going to do what I'm going to do." And then some clients are like, "You're the money mommy. Like, tell me what to do. I will do whatever you say." That is like, I have the personality varies greatly across all of my clients.
Good to know. What are some of the biggest catastrophes or the worst scenarios that you've encountered where you've been able to right the ship for somebody that came on board?
Bookkeeping is a big one. People come to me with the most like treacherous. I don't know if treacherous is the right word. It's like when I go into the books and I see what a previous bookkeeper has done, it devastates me. So cleaning up bookkeeping and especially if you have multiple years of like back taxes that you haven't filed. And
Yeah.
we're going in, like, one of my clients who is a accounting she is an accountant, and she is an accounting company. She does taxes and bookkeeping too. She came to me and we did all of her books back to 2021, and she's a big offender when it comes to commingling as well. So we have that conversation a lot.
I feel you. Like when I was talking to Chris Tweeton of Spacebar Collective, he does like Calgary SEO, and one of the challenges of being in my particular niche is you're taking over the reins of somebody else's work, and
Yeah.
it's you're often inheriting a mess and cleaning up kind of damaged relationships before, so part of it is
Yeah.
rebuilding that trust. And, a lot of times that means going through extra filtering or having extra conversations to show them, okay, we yes, there are disreputable SEOs who don't do things right or do things that are risky or, but that doesn't mean that we all do. So I definitely
Right.
feel you on that. Hey, you get your last bookkeeper, how to say this politely, sucked.
Yeah, we need to have this conversation. And also it's like and it sucks because, people are bad at their job in every industry, but when you hear about a particularly bad bookkeeper, particularly bad accountant, it makes us all look bad and makes it seem like we're all cold and can't explain things on a normal, like, casual conversational level, and, all of the things, or will shame you or any of those. It sucks.
I'm curious about some of what I think of as like the bigger ticket windfall type of professions, where, you know, like a realtor or a lawyer, they're not necessarily looking at such like a regular consistence. They're like hitting big windfalls here periodically.
Mm.
Um, what's your advice for the folk who don't have, that biweekly easy cadence with their clients of like, okay, well, this is the billing schedule and it's coming in, like I have X clients and they're paying on these time frames versus, you know, mother load comes in and then
Right.
stretch and then hitting
Yeah.
another one.
Yeah. It's all about cash flow. I always say that cash flow is queen and it's also baby, right? So, like, everything you do is, like, in the name of your cash flow. So if you have those huge spikes, like I'm also in this spike, category as well, because all my clients pay me on the first, and then I have very little revenue coming in through the rest of the weeks. So I I mean, other people have much longer runways for revenue, as far as like realtors, like you said, like they may sell a couple homes a quarter and they're getting these huge influxes. But so cash flow, you're doing everything in the name of your cash flow. So when you set a price point in your business, when you like launch a new offer, having that in mind of where that's going to fall on your monthly cadence, as well as expenses, get all of your expenses. You can um I'm like blanking on my words today. You can negotiate your expenses. Like, you can negotiate anything. Like, you can ask them if, hey, can I pay this on the first, or hey, can we split this up? Like, if you pay a contractor specifically, and normally they would charge you, a retainer rate of $2,000 a month at one point in the month, ask them if you can do it weekly, if you can pay them $500 a week instead, so that your cash flow is taken care of and babysat. And that's the reason why I say it's baby, because it needs to be consistently tweaked and babysat and monitored. Oop, I think you're muted.
It was. I'm curious about, you know, on that cash flow side, um, business loan payouts, getting capital loan investments and working with investors, and expectations of performance after that. I've had kind of a rocky relationship as an employee working with, companies that have gone from, small ownership to being part of a corporate constellation as part of a buyout, or taking on investors, and now suddenly everybody has these additional criteria that they have to meet. um, what's been your experience kind of navigating those waters of stepping back end financing, if you will?
Mm. Do you mean like
Like investor situations like a private equity or
yeah,
angel investor relationships
yeah.
involved with your company, and the decision making of like you want to grow. Like one company I was with was a SaaS company, and they wanted to grow aggressively, and so they turned to a private finance company, which gave them the money to do so, but also with a contingent string of expectations for
Right.
growth in sales. So
Right. Yeah. Well, I do have a current client who is building a incredible STI testing company. It's going to be huge and amazing, and I'm so excited for it. But they've been so far reliant on angel investors, pretty much just anybody who wants to contribute money in exchange for shares of the company. But right now, she's trying to get a huge um some capital funding from like a firm, and it's going to be, I think, several $1 million at this point. So I haven't she hasn't secured it yet, but what I'm trying to get at here is like there are expectations that come with these certain revenue shares, like if you need to pay out your locations or clients or whatever it is because you are in some sort of agreement, and like you want to have their interest at heart, but you also want to have your own interest at heart. So I think there is a fine line of like walking that, like, where do my values lie, and like how much of my business do I want to um lay on the capital investors, and how much control do I want to retain, and that's all negotiable in the terms.
two questions. One is going down the line of the franchise concept. Have you worked with any individuals that are under a franchise or on top of a franchise, offering it to smaller people? Is that something you have experience in that you can chime in about the challenges of being in a constellation where you can control brand? You can't control brand, but you can repeat a quote unquote successful model, or is that an area where you haven't touched yet?
Not been a part of any franchises. I do have a client who's trying to sell her company. That's about as far into like acquisition or like, all of that I have.
Fair enough. Um, I it's probably more of like a personal question. What do you think about corporations? Because,
What do you
we
mean, like
we
legal
watch.
corporations or like
Yeah. So at the end of the day, these entities exist, and their primary factor is a requirement for growth and profitability.
mhm,
And, from a socioeconomic perspective, that can often lead to decision making that is exclusive of other major factors.
yeah,
If you're a small business owner starting out, obviously, you want to make money, but you also have those secondary factors of, well, I shouldn't do things that are going to destroy my community or take
right.
on business practices that are toxic. Is there uh, any perspective you have on managing corporate culture, or from a financial perspective of, creating, instead of an S corp, a B corp, where it has that social mission listed out in the terms of service, so to speak, for the entity, as opposed to, hey, the end game is money and whatever happens, happens, as long as we stay within the boundaries of the law.
Hmm. That's interesting because I definitely like in my intake form when you book a clarity call with me, you have to answer a question about like I choose to work with people who have missions, who are incredibly like focused on helping their community, helping their families, and like making their own lives better. Like I choose to work with mission-driven companies and corporations at that level. It's kind of impossible to make decisions that are purely for like the good of the community when you have a board of directors or you have a board of people who are only care about their own, you know, and profitability. So as far as like S corp versus B corp versus C corp versus like, sole proprietor LLC, like it's all using the system, the tax system to your advantage, which I am fully for. If you can learn how to game the system and use the laws to your advantage, like go for it. Because I think that the more people who are mission driven, who know the laws, who know how to make them work for themselves, will make the world a better place.
I like that. So, turning to the elephant that's always standing in the room, in every interview I have at some point, I have to ask about AI. And,
Mm.
as my friend Matt Brooks at SEO Tarek says, it's your least trained but most popular customer support representative. What's your opinion on companies, popping into Claude and ChatGPT and asking those questions that you usually field? When we know that it often hallucinates
Mm.
raw information, lies about some of the results that it may get, even when it's observed and challenged. What's your opinion of the use of AI in the field of finance?
I use AI every day. So I am a big proponent of ideating with AI as far as I don't know if you know anything about human design, but I'm a manifesting generator. And what that means is like I need something to respond to. So in the way that my energy works is like I usually can't go into a project or go into an idea for something without having any sort of like something to grab onto or chew on, you know what I mean? So I usually am responding to something that I've seen online or seen on threads or had a conversation about. In that way, I ideate a lot with AI about um like daily business tasks. I can't even think of anything off the top of my head right now because I use it so um just for like everyday tasks. But as far as in finance, like QuickBooks has tried to implement AI into their bookkeeping. I use an AI accounting software called Count, who is my practice manager. It's also my bookkeeping software. A lot of my clients are in that software, and it is extremely helpful to scan the expenses that are going through the bank feeds and catch those things. But you're always going to need a human eye on those things because I would say probably 45% of the time it's wrong. It's not absolutely taking that work off the plate.
So more look at it as a cautious assistant, not a replacement.
Correct. Yeah. Well, because, and like you said, like it hallucinates. And I think the more you use AI, the better you get at prompting it and the better you get at knowing, okay, what can I use this for successfully instead of like, I think it's more dangerous to use it rarely than not at all or like all the time. Does that make sense? Like if you're not,
Does.
yeah. So if you're not like fully versed on how to prompt it, how to lead it to what you're trying to get it to lead you to, it can easily lead you astray. So I think if you're going to use it, you should use it more. If you're not going to use it, don't use it at all. It's my stand.
So don't hang out in the shallow end. Either jump in or stay out of the water.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough. I was kind of wrap up here. what are some things that you've been working on that you want people to know about your company? Are you doing any special classes or sessions or putting out information that people could follow up on? I'm happy to add stuff to the show notes if people want to learn more from you.
Yeah, so I've just launched my industry mastermind for other accounting professionals who want to stand out in the online space, marketing, positioning, authority in the online space. It's really for accounting professionals who are done being boring and done relying on the educational, here's how to read a P&L, or this is how to do a journal entry, and like things that anybody can look up on Google anywhere they want to, and like start actually bringing in those clients who want you for your advisory and making a standout appearance online.
Absolutely love it. Thank you so much, Meaghan, for coming on. I'll make sure that any of those resources you mentioned are linked, like the mastermind. And thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. This was fun.